Did you know that the first woman to conquer the English Channel never gave up despite failures and criticism? Gertrude Ederle, a bold girl from New York, overcame not only the waves but also the fears and challenges of her life. A story of determination, defeat, and triumph that inspires us all. Watch how this little girl from the streets of New York became the queen of the waves. Gertrude Caroline Ederle was born on October 23, 1905, in the bustling city of New York. Her parents, Henry and Anna Ederle, were German immigrants who had arrived in America in search of opportunity and a better future for their growing family. Henry, a hard-working butcher, owned a small shop in their neighborhood, where the delicious aroma of fresh sausages often wafted out onto the streets. Anna, a gentle and nurturing woman, kept their home warm and inviting, caring for their 5 lively children. Trudy, as Gertrude was affectionately called, was the youngest daughter and a bundle of unstoppable energy. From a young age, she was known for her curiosity and fearlessness. One bright spring afternoon, when she was just 3 years old, she managed to sneak out of their apartment and toddled her way toward the park fountain. Anna found her moments later, drenched and giggling uncontrollably as she splashed in the water. Instead of scolding her, Anna chuckled, realizing her daughter's early love for water. When Trudy was 5, the family decided to escape the summer heat of the city with a trip to the New Jersey coast. It was her first encounter with the vastness of the ocean. As she stood on the beach, her small hand gripping her mother's, she gasped at the sparkling waves stretching endlessly before her. "Mama, it's so big! Can I go in?" she asked with wide, excited eyes. Anna hesitated but eventually nodded, and Trudy eagerly dashed into the shallows. The cool water splashed against her tiny legs, and she squealed with delight. But the joy turned to fright when an unexpected wave surged forward, knocking her over and pulling her under. Trudy flailed in the water, her laughter replaced by desperate struggle. Her father, who had been watching nearby, raced into the surf and scooped her up. Coughing and sputtering, she clung to him as they returned to the shore. Anna rushed to her daughter, fearing the scare would leave her terrified of the water. But as soon as Trudy caught her breath, she surprised them all by saying, "I'm going to learn to be strong in the water. I won't let it beat me again." Her father smiled and ruffled her damp hair. "That's my girl," he said proudly. By the time she was 7, Trudy's fascination with water only grew. Her father took her to a nearby public pool, a place she had begged to visit after hearing stories from other children. Henry presented her with a small gift, a pair of swimming goggles. "This will help you see the magic underwater," he said with a wink. Trudy put them on immediately and plunged into the water, gasping at the underwater world she discovered. Swimming became her passion. She spent hours in the pool, diving and paddling with an energy that amazed everyone. To Trudy, the water was more than just a playground. It was a place where she felt powerful and free. One day, as she raced her friends in the pool, one of them exclaimed, "Trudy, you swim like a fish." She grinned and replied cheekily, "I'm not a fish, I'm stronger than that." By the age of 12, Trudy's raw talent had become impossible to ignore. Her parents enrolled her in the Women's Swimming Association, WSA, an organization dedicated to developing young female swimmers. Trudy quickly caught the attention of the coaches, who were astounded by her speed and stamina. One of them, William Burgess, pulled her aside after practice one day. "Trudy, you have something special," he said. "You could become one of the best swimmers in the world, but it won't be easy. Are you willing to work hard?" Trudy looked at him with determination. "I'm ready," she said firmly. Training with the WSA was grueling. Mornings began before sunrise with hours of drills and technique practice. Trudy swam lap after lap, her muscles aching but her resolve stronger than ever. She took every piece of feedback from her coaches seriously, always striving to improve. Her father often watched from the sidelines, beaming with pride as his youngest daughter pushed herself to new limits. At just 15 years old, Trudy shattered her first swimming record, dominating the women's 800-meter freestyle event. Her victory was more than just a win, it was a statement. Reporters flocked to her, marveling at her skill and nicknaming her the Little Rocket for her speed in the water. Trudy, however, remained humble, knowing her journey was just beginning. Her triumph ignited a dream within her, a dream to conquer waters beyond the pool, to take on challenges no woman had ever dared before. Little did she know, the path ahead would be filled with waves, both literal and figurative, testing not only her strengths but also her spirit. As Trudy grew older, her love for the water only deepened. At 15, she wasn't just a strong swimmer, she was a force to be reckoned with. Her coaches often marveled at her endurance and speed. "She's not just swimming," one of them said, "she's flying through the water." By the time she was 16, Trudy had her sights set on something bigger, competing in the Olympics. It was 1924 and the Summer Games were being held in Paris. Trudy trained harder than ever, waking up before the sun to practice in freezing cold pools and pushing herself to swim longer distances every day. She repeated a mantra in her head: faster, stronger, better. When Trudy arrived in Paris, she was both excited and nervous. The pool where the Olympic events were held seemed massive, with a stand full of cheering spectators. Her heart raced as she lined up with swimmers from around the world. "You've got this, Trudy," her coach said, patting her shoulder. Trudy faced setbacks on the grand stage of the Olympics in Paris. Although she won a gold medal in the 4 by 100 meters freestyle relay and 2 bronze medals in individual events, there were races where she didn't perform as expected. Critics questioned whether she had what it took to be the best. Trudy's heart ached with the sting of disappointment, but she refused to let doubt take root. In 1925, with the world watching, Trudy attempted to conquer the English Channel for the first time. She stood on the shores of France, staring out at the cold, unyielding waters that separated her from England. Her heart pounded with a mix of excitement and fear. As she dove into the icy embrace of the channel, the cheers of her team faded, replaced by the deafening roar of the waves. The swim was brutal, the water was colder than she had imagined, and the tide seemed determined to push her back. Hour after hour, she fought against the currents, her stroke steady but her strength waning. Finally, after hours of battling the relentless sea, her team made the heartbreaking decision to pull her out, fearing for her safety. Trudy, exhausted and defeated, watched the shores of England fade into the horizon. The newspapers were unforgiving, calling her attempt a failure. But for Trudy, this wasn't the end, it was a beginning. She returned home not in shame, but with a fierce resolve burning in her chest. "I'll be back," she told herself, her eyes gleaming with determination. In 1926, she stood once again at the edge of the English Channel, the bitter memory of her first attempt fresh in her mind. But this time she was stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. In the weeks leading up to her English Channel attempt, Trudy's life revolved entirely around training. She swam every day in ice-cold water to toughen her body against the frigid temperatures of the channel. Her trainer, Jabez Wolf, a seasoned channel swimmer himself, was relentless. "Again, Trudy, you need to outlast the cold," he barked as she emerged, shivering, from the icy waters of the New Jersey coastline. You're not just fighting the waves, you're fighting your own body. Train your mind to push past the pain. Trudy nodded, her teeth chattering but her resolve unwavering. She followed a strict diet to maintain her energy, eating foods rich in fats and proteins to fuel her long swims. Her family, though nervous, supported her completely. Her father often joked, "If anyone can outswim a shark, it's you, Trudy." The night before her channel swim, Trudy couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. What if I fail? What if the water is too cold or the currents are too strong? But then she thought of the many young girls who looked up to her. If I give up, what message am I sending them? Her older sister Meg sat by her bed and held her hand. "Trudy," she said softly, "you've done the impossible before. Tomorrow you'll do it again. Just remember, you're not alone. We're all with you." Trudy squeezed her sister's hand, feeling a surge of courage. The swim began in the early morning darkness. Trudy covered her body in thick layers of grease to protect against the cold, a standard practice for channel swimmers. As she waded into the water, the icy waves beat into her skin. Her team followed her in a boat, guiding her path and shouting encouragement. The first few hours felt smooth, almost enjoyable. Trudy found her rhythm, her strokes steady and confident. But as the sun rose, so did the challenges. The waves grew rougher and the cold became more intense. "Keep going, Trudy!" her coach yelled from the boat. She nodded, her jaw tight with determination. Every stroke felt like a battle against the elements, but she refused to stop. Midway through the swim, a thick fog rolled in, obscuring her view of the boat. Panic crept in. "What if I get lost? What if I swim in circles?" she thought. But then she heard the faint sound of her coach's voice through the fog. "You're doing great, Trudy. Trust your instincts." She kept swimming, focusing on the rhythm of her strokes and the sound of the water. Suddenly she felt something brush against her leg. Her heart leapt. Was it a jellyfish or worse, a shark? But she pushed the fear aside and kept going. Hours passed, and Trudy's strength began to wane. Her arms felt like lead, and her legs cramped with every kick. She signaled to her team, and they threw her a flask of warm broth. As she drank, she saw concern on their faces. "Are you okay?" her coach asked. Trudy nodded, though tears stung her eyes. "I can do this," she whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. The boat's engine hummed as it kept pace with her, a constant reminder that she wasn't truly alone. As night fell, Trudy faced her greatest challenge yet, the tides. A powerful current began pulling her backward, undoing hours of progress. Exhaustion threatened to overwhelm her. "Why am I even doing this?" she thought. But then she remembered her promise. To herself, to her family, and to every woman who had ever been told, "You can't." She clenched her fist and powered forward, stroke by agonizing stroke. Her body was screaming for rest, but her mind was louder, urging her onward. On the other hand, because of bad weather and thick fog, the boat couldn't stay with Trudy anymore. She had to keep going alone in the dark night, and the darkness around her grew thicker. Trudy felt a wave of panic wash over her. The fog made it impossible to tell which direction she was heading. She was lost, alone in the cold water, and doubt began to seep in. "Why am I doing this?" she thought, feeling the weight of exhaustion pressing her down. Back on shore, the news spread quickly. People had been following her progress on the radio, waiting for updates. As the hours passed, more and more gathered along the beach, their faces filled with hope and concern. In a show of support, they built a huge fire on the beach, flames reaching high into the night sky. When she was completely hopeless, caught sight of the fire from a distance. It was a beacon, guiding her back on track. With renewed hope, she swam toward the light, focusing all her energy on reaching the shore. After 14 hours and 34 minutes, Trudy finally felt the sand beneath her fingers. She collapsed onto the English shore, too tired to stand but filled with a deep sense of triumph. The crowd that had gathered erupted into cheers. "You did it!" someone shouted. Her team helped her to her feet, wrapping her in a warm blanket. Trudy looked out at the water she had conquered and smiled. "I told you I wouldn't let the waves beat me," she said softly. Through the cheering crowd, she reflected on the journey that had led her to this moment. She wasn't just the first woman to swim across the English Channel. She had shattered a barrier that once seemed insurmountable. Her success was a beacon of hope for women everywhere, proving that strength, determination, and courage weren't bound by gender. In the years that followed, Trudy's achievement became a symbol of the unbreakable spirit of those who dared to challenge the impossible. Her story inspired women across the United States and the world to reach for their own dreams, regardless of the obstacles in their way. She had not only made history, she had changed the world's perception of what women could accomplish. Her triumph in 1926 ignited a movement, encouraging future generations to redefine their limits, showing the world that the power to succeed lies within anyone who believes they can. The impact of her victory echoed far beyond the shores of the Channel, leaving a legacy of resilience and breaking through barriers that would shape the path for countless others to follow. In the years to come, whenever women took challenges that once seemed out of reach, they would look to Trudy as a reminder that greatness is not a matter of chance, but of will. Trudy's journey wasn't just about swimming. It was about resilience, courage, and the unshakable belief that limits exist only to be broken. The waves she faced, both in Channel and in life, taught her one thing: greatness is not about never falling, it's about rising every time you do. Her story reminds us that the currents of doubt, fear, and exhaustion may try to pull us back, but with determination and heart, we can push forward. If Trudy could conquer the cold, the currents, and the impossible, so can you. Whenever life feels overwhelming, remember Trudy's words: "The waves don't control your path, you do." Let her story inspire you to dive headfirst into your dreams and emerge victorious, no matter how rough the waters.